Rudy Collane, the CapeCod.com News Center, and welcome to Sunday Journal. I'm joined today by a special guest from the Davenport Companies. Do you mind introducing yourself for our listeners?
Grady, good to see you. Matt Pitta, Director of Communication with the Davenport Companies, based in South Yarmouth.
Yeah, you're a returning face. You've been on before, and also you've been involved in my co-working life for a while now, so it's great to see you in studio especially. But we wanted to talk a little bit more about the Seaside Le Mans Race at first, as well as touch on some general topics important to the Cape and Islands region, particularly bridges later, so stay tuned. But for right now, Seaside Le Mans, do you mind talking a little bit more about what that event is, and then we'll dive into beneficiaries later?
Sure. And it's great to be back here in the studio, many years in here, so appreciate having us back come in. So the Seaside Le Mans is a charitable race that began back in 2001, and that's kind of an important thing. I'll get back to that in a moment. So it was created by the Davenport Companies and our CEO, DeWitt Davenport. And the Davenport Companies themselves have been around since 1956. It was started with a small little housing development they built in Dennis back in 1956, and the whole company grew into this very large Cape Cod-based, multifaceted company. One thing that's been very, very important to the Davenport families since they began was their philanthropy. And they're involved in many, many philanthropic efforts. And what happened over 23 years ago is they were coming back from a management team building exercise at the old F1 facility off Cape, which are those F1 style racing karts. And they had a great time up there. And as they're coming back, DeWitt tells the story that they were thinking, how can we somehow leverage this whole experience into a greater good for the Cape Cod community? And literally in that ride, born the idea of the Seaside Le Mans. And so DeWitt reached out to the F1 folks and said, hey, is there any way we could actually bring all of your karts to the Cape in trucks and let's race them for charity?
And don't tell insurance about that at the same time, I assume is what the conversation went like.
Right.
So, yeah, it's very interesting. It's been a yearly event, draws a lot of people, and it, of course, benefits a lot of local community agencies. Do you mind just highlighting some of the beneficiaries for this year?
Yeah. So this is a really exciting year. So we're now over $9 million raised since the inception of the race. And, that's a significant amount of money. All of that money, what we really like to impress and make sure that we continue to tell people is that 100% of all that money goes directly to these beneficiaries. So the entire cost of the race to put it on, every single dollar that's spent is actually covered by DeWitt Davenport and the Davenport Companies. So what that means, and this is important, I think, when people are thinking about donating to organizations, is that 100% of all the dollars donated go directly to the charities. 100%. There's no administrative cost whatsoever. And that's so important, I think, when people are thinking of where they're going to give their hard-earned dollars to a philanthropic effort, that they know it's all going to these beneficiaries. So this year, we've got a great group of 5 amazing beneficiaries. Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance, and their program this year is Small Boats, Big Taste program. Now, the Alliance's goal is to encourage the local fishing community. They build relationships and do everything they can to advocate for the fishing industry, which remains a very important industry here on Cape. So the money raised this year through Seaside Le Mans will go to their Small Boats Big Taste program, in which they're working on food security challenges, where they're able to access fish that comes in from their members and then get it to local food banks, etc., so they can provide a nutritious, healthy meal to people in need. So it helps those in need, and it also helps to continue to sustain our local fishing industry. Cape Cod Healthcare, which is a beneficiary almost every year. This year, their money is going to be used to supporting their comprehensive care treatment and care program for patients. When a patient has that diagnosis of cancer, it's a horrible diagnosis, but it goes beyond just the medical. There's a whole social, mental, emotional impact. So Cape Cod Healthcare has an amazing program where they work with you not only on your treatment, but also on the social and the mental side of things, working with you and your family to help you through. Another beneficiary this year is Children's Cove, and they've been a beneficiary in the past. This is such an important organization. They work in a collaborative way with families and young children who are victims of abuse through no-cost, evidence-based programs. And they work with community partnerships, education outreach, and more to help those who are impacted. I'm sure you've actually talked with Children's Cove many times in the past. And the terrible part of what they deal with is that they're only really able to get to a small percentage of people who are actually victims of abuse. So a really important organization that is coming on with us this year. The other one is the Brazilian Resource Center, who actually folks will most likely know as the old Health Ministry Alliance. The Health Ministry Alliance has been around for a couple of years now, and they were designed and formed to really help out with the Brazilian community and the needs and the challenges they have. The Brazilian community is so important to Cape Cod on so many levels, on a social, cultural, economic level. The Brazilian community, they've been coming here over the many years, growing in numbers, building their own businesses, building their own community, and they're such an integral part of the Cape Cod community. But many of the new people coming in need assistance. So the Health Ministry Alliance has been there for them with free health care, education, language learning, etc. But as we understood, the name itself, some people were, well, not, what does the health ministry do, right? Maybe a bit of a misnomer initially. So they've actually changed their name and kind of made the announcement when we announced that they were a beneficiary. So the Brazilian Resource Center, formerly the Health Ministry Alliance. And then our other organization, and I know that you've covered them extensively here, Grady, Heroes in Transition, expanding veteran services across Cape Cod. This is an amazing organization. They do the Ruck for Hit, as you know. And they're going to use their money for this year is to further expand veteran services further down Cape.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. Definitely touching every one of the major communities across the Cape as well. I kind of want to talk a little bit about that community focus and in general the kind of the cultural impact this has had. You already kind of mentioned that this was during a specific year that this was started. I wasn't sure if you wanted to touch on that again and how that impacts maybe the feel-good nature of why this is the way it is.
It really does. So the first year of the race was 2001. We all know what happened in 2001. The race was scheduled for the weekend right after 9/11, right? I remember this so vividly because, Grady, I was sitting where we sit here today. I was sitting there when 9/11 happened, and we know what dramatic impact it was to the world. The race had already been planned. It was already scheduled, and the original race was on Main Street Hyannis. They actually closed down Main Street, and they raced the cars in a circle on Main Street. Mm-hmm. The question arose right after 9/11, should we still do this race? Should it happen? And the answer was actually very clear. Not only should we do the race, they had to do the race because it was going to be a way to bring the community together at a time when it was greatly needed. So the race went on, and it was a way for the community to come together and really celebrate America after what had happened on 9/11. So since then, it has become such an important community event. It's more than just a yearly fundraiser. It's a year-round effort in which we work with these beneficiaries throughout the summer. You'll be hearing about them a lot through all of our social media, etc. So, the organization Seaside Le Mans has become such an integral part of the larger philanthropic community on Cape Cod. We appreciate everybody who has been involved with us.
Mm-hmm. And now, of course, this takes place at the Mashpee Commons. There's food, there's music. It's like a whole daily event. Whole family can be involved. So I almost wonder if there's been any kind of, or even a way to figure this out. Like, I'm assuming this has a bigger impact for the economy for that local area too. Like, this draws in a lot of people every year. I don't know if you've managed to have any kind of surveys or data sets to kind of corroborate, but I won't put you in the hot seat for that necessarily about numbers. But yeah, it definitely seems like it'd be a big boom for the local markets there.
Yeah, we don't have kind of specific numbers, but we know it is definitely a big impact for the Mashpee area and for Mashpee Commons. This year's race takes place on September 7th. Thousands and thousands of people will come into Mashpee Commons to take part in that race and be spectators. So yeah, it definitely does have that impact as well. We like to really focus on the fact that this is a race that is benefiting the Cape Cod community, and I reiterate that all of the money raised goes to these organizations. So, and still chances for people to become involved on the donor side this year. We're really excited. We're bringing on brand new We're bringing on brand new donors this year. We'd like to welcome in Rockland Trust. They're a brand new brand new donor for us this year. LaBarge Homes down in Harwich. They're a builder. So we have brand new organizations that they want to be part of what Seaside Le Mans is all about.
All right, awesome. Yeah, actually, you were mentioning about how much money actually goes towards the cause, which is important. During COVID-19, I remember Attorney General was kind of dumping out so many PSAs about warning about possible scams, or at least like maybe your money's not being the most well spent. So do you think there's a lot more scrutiny on nonprofit events and efforts
100%,
like this?
Yeah. No, I agreed. I think that there was definitely more scrutiny on when people would get solicitations from events and organizations. Number one, was it legitimate? But also, where is the money going, right? I go back to that, and, there are many, many great nonprofit organizations doing amazing work on Cape Cod. unfortunately, off Cape, over the years, you will occasionally hear stories about an organization that is a nonprofit. However, a significant amount of the money that they raise goes to administration, big salaries, exorbitant expenses, etc. So we really like to push that there's not $1 that is raised for Seaside Le Mans goes to the administration of the race. The DeWitt Davenport and his company, the Davenport Companies, pays for every single expense to run the race. Therefore, every single dollar that comes in will be going to these beneficiaries. There are very few philanthropic groups that can say 100% of the money is going to the actual organization.
Yeah, that is awesome. Now, as well, this is a very it's a taxing process. This is real F1 style cars, and I'm imagining that it sounds they're small, but they're still very fast. But I wanted to ask a little bit more about what it's like to be a racer, because I do have I have a photo here of a certain gentleman by the name of Matt Pitta, who was once in the race himself. This is from 2016.
Yes.
So I'm going to pull this up. We're going to have a digital version online. I know for the audio listeners out there, it is tough to hear about stuff you can't see, but we have a nice picture of him all in the leathers. It's from 2016. He's got his bright red. He's got his race helmet ready to go, and we will have the picture up on CapeCod.com. And I just wanted to ask a little bit about how that race went. This is when you were still with Cape Cod Broadcasting Media, racing for us. But how did this day go? Did you have any stories that you wanted to share?
Controversial.
Controversial takes. What's the gossip, or what happened that day, man?
So we were part of that race, myself and other team members, some of whom are still here with you, and so we were in that race, and they had a media race. They actually had media organizations race against each other as part of it. So I was all ready for this thing. I'm a big car guy. I love cars, racing, and so I had to be on the team. So I get to my portion of the race, I jump in, and I'm ripping around the track, doing my thing, and apparently I got a little aggressive, so they tell me, and I was kind of trying to cut around the team in front of us. I may have bumped that car, and I may have gone into the wall a little bit, allegedly. I don't have any evidence of that. There's no video. But I kept going, and they waved me on a penalty, and apparently I kept going, and then they waved me in, they brought me into the penalty pit, and as a result, we got a big penalty, we got points deducted off, and we lost the race.
Would that have been the game-changing pointage for first place?
Apparently it would have been.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that part. That's actually new to me.
So my former teammates still hold that against me. And I'm now told I'm not allowed to race, even though I work for the company now. I cannot race because they say you are a very aggressive driver. So,
you are a passionate driver, exactly. That's an entirely different problem to have, but a good problem.
It was an amazing time, and I encourage people to come to the race if they can. We still have actually slots available for new donors if you want, and we can still get some teams in. So we have a whole structure of donations. You can go on to seasidelemans.org and find out how you can donate and how you can get a team involved. And so, again, if you're wondering what's it all about, these are F1 style karts. They're very popular. If you go to places like, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's a newer facility near Gillette up in Foxborough that has inside racing. There's one over at the Foxwoods Casino. These race places, these F1 style karts are popping up everywhere. Very popular. So you actually race in one of these. You're about 2 inches off the ground, and you're doing, I think, 35, 40 miles an hour. You're flying. So, we actually close off an entire section of the parking lot at Mashpee Commons, and you race these karts through there over a period of 4 hours. It's a 4-hour endurance race, 6 racers for each team, rotating in every 15 minutes. So it's just a lot of fun, and again, all the money raised goes to these great charities.
All right, awesome. Now, I also wanted to talk with you about other general topics, particularly the bridges. You are part of a coalition team that's been put on that. But before we move topics, I wanted to ask if there's anything else you wanted to highlight about this race event, and just also, once again, if people want to race, especially, where can they go to jump in? One more time, just the URL or phone number, just wherever else contact can be made.
Best thing to do is to go to our website at seasidelemans.org. All the information you need there about when the race takes place, beneficiaries, donors, etc. The race takes place this year on September 7th at Mashpee Commons. The race itself runs from 12 to 4. Even if you're not racing, we encourage you to come down with the family. It's a great event to watch. We have a bridge that goes over the racetrack, so you can stand on the bridge and watch the cars. In addition to that, we have a family fun zone in the middle, so you can bring the kids. They can play with some great games there. We have food that we bring in, plus there are all the amazing restaurants at Mashpee Commons that you can enjoy while you're there. We also usually have the Army National Guard there with some of their trucks as well. So it's a great event. September 7th, 2024, Mashpee Commons, the 2024 Seaside Le Mans, will be getting close to $10 million this year, just over $9 million raised.
I'm Grady Collane, and thank you for listening to Sunday Journal.